everyone tuning in and joining us here today. I'm so excited. This is one of our CAM4 expert interviews, meaning all of you broadcasters and all of you in the CAM4 community get the opportunity to hear about a certain area, aspect of how to improve your camming life. And today's guest is an amazing individual, someone who I actually get to call a friend in my real life. We've worked together on a number of live events surrounding all things erotic writing, erotic literature, confessional, both just are drooling and oohing and gooing over the art form and creating for it as well. So today we have Carly from Aurore magazine. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's such a delight. And I mean, you have this aura about you that is so seductive that
Do
even
I?
through technology, through a fucking Zoom screen, I'm like, melt,
You're seduced. It's
melt.
working on you.
Fully,
Good,
fully
good.
seduced. So for people that are maybe hearing about Aurore for the very first time, what is this initiative all about? When did it start?
So, Aurore, I started about 4 years ago. There's a lot of different origin stories that I like to share, but one of them is many years ago, I was unemployed and I decided, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to have a friend claim my unemployment in New York. I'm going to rent out my room and I'm going to go to Europe and I'm going to give myself an assignment to date around European countries and interview people about sex, dating, and relationships in their culture. And I did this not really knowing what was going to come out of it, assuming I was going to pitch it to like The Cut or New York Magazine, something when I got back. And this was early days of dating apps. So I've heard that now dating apps are the absolute worst. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm no longer on the apps, but these were early days where I think there was still some excitement and trust about meeting somebody new that you found on an app. And so I went abroad, and in each city I landed in, I'd go on to the apps and make dates with people. And when I showed up to the dates, I'd be like, hey, I'm doing this project. Can I record our conversation? And I'd basically interview them, but it was more of a conversation than an interview. And inevitably, at the end of these conversations, we had been so open and intimate and vulnerable with each other that it kind of naturally led to sex. And as I was rewriting later on, when I was back home, rewriting the interviews, I wanted to tell the sex part too. That felt like so important and such a big part of the experience. And I didn't really know a space that wanted something cultural, intelligent, and like super raw sex as well. And so ultimately, one thing led to another, and I created the space for the content that I wanted to create and consume, and that is Aurore. And it started out with my stories of those escapades. And I asked friends of mine to write because everyone I knew was having crazy wild sex in New York City and everyone had a story to tell. And it has grown since then. We have over 200 stories from people all over the world. And the stories are meant to be about the sex that changed you. Any sexual experiences that are positive, that left an impact that could educate or inspire others. So I see it as like one part sex education because it's a way to learn exactly what gets people off. And another part, just like ultimate voyeurism because people are letting you into their most intimate moments. Yeah. So it's meant to be about more than sex. So like we all have sex, most of us have sex, and like some experiences are better than others. But the act of writing, what I found in writing about my encounters was it is such a wonderful vehicle for catharsis, for piecing through a relationship that maybe ended in not the best way. So there's opportunity, even though the stories are meant to be real based on your own experiences, you can rewrite the narrative, right? So you can tell the story the way that you wish it had gone down, which is incredibly healing. It's honestly akin to therapy for me. It is more fruitful than therapy because I'm less of a talker and more of a writer. I feel like I need to get my stuff down on paper, on a laptop. So yeah, I highly recommend it for everyone. I think that it's a really powerful experience.
Listening to you even talk about it is a powerful experience. This seems to so much of the world like a completely foreign arena to enter into, this self-examination of our sexual selves, and I think it's the great tragedy of our modern world personally. Before entering into the journey abroad, were you always someone in touch with their erotic self? What told you, or what has led you this way?
It's something I think about a lot, and I'd love to pose the question to you as well, because I know you are very in touch with your erotic self. I think I developed very early. I have beautiful, bountiful breasts, and I got them when I was pretty young, around 12, and I was sexualized from such a young age that I think my way of understanding that was to actually step into that role and take that power back. Instead of allowing others to sexualize me, I became the owner of my sexuality. And I've always been someone who is not judgmental, who's very open, and people have always come to me with their sex stuff. So I was always really interested in hearing about people's sex stuff. And so, yes, I've always been very in touch with my sexuality, a very sexual, very horny person. So it is very natural that I ended up here. In fact, sometimes I wonder why it took me so long to get here, because I was always within this realm, but until I started my own space, I never fully owned like the ownership of a space like this is you can really create exactly what you want people to feel in it. And I think that's really powerful, especially for a lot of us women who have been in sexual situations that we didn't enjoy or didn't like all the details of and couldn't control. Being able to take that back is very powerful.
For anyone listening, I think that's a prompt right there. A lot, like I said, a lot of the audience listenership are other creators in the adult space. And it's a curiosity I have anytime I have the chance to speak to someone, is like, how did you learn or react to that call from within to value the erotic? How has it enhanced your life? Is that something that you're even aware of? Was there life before being this sexually liberated self? How has your erotic expression colored your world?
That's beautiful. I think, anyone in this industry, we are all, because we are in touch with our sexuality and so comfortable with our sexuality, we become teachers for those who are not. And I think sometimes, for me at least, it's not always obvious that other people may struggle to get to a place where I began, right? Like there's a lot of different levels of where people are at with their sexuality. And also, I think it's something that will change and evolve our entire lives. One of my favorite things is that there's always something new and something you can learn about yourself, what you're into. But I think really creating these spaces, there's so much potential to instruct and care for others and nurture them along that journey. And it's certainly not always easy work. And it's definitely, I think, in a lot of the creators that you're mentioning, that's probably very thankless work. I think with Aurore, I get to work with a lot of women and queer people telling their stories with, in their own way. And that's really rewarding. But at the same time, I'm up against a lot of the censorship and, general bullshit that other creators are on Instagram, Meta, and etc. So I totally understand that.
Censorship is such a huge topic in any aspect of sexual expression, be it in the name of education, be it in the name of entertainment. I mean, it seems like in many ways an impossible battle right now, but I don't want to say that there's no end in sight that we can feel excited about, because then what the fuck is the point? I do think that it's going to continue to be a transformative journey. We're going to have to continue to find ways to be crafty and yet intentional about sharing our erotic selves. For people that are going to jump on the website now and kind of navigate around and enjoy it, could you tell us what the reach of it is now? And let's just look down the pipe here of, say, 5 years. How and where do you see it growing to?
Well, I have been talking about my dream to evolve into creating actual porn, visual porn, for using these stories that we have and creating scripts. So, my background in terms of what I enjoyed erotically, I definitely loved reading like trashy romance novels as a young person, but I also always loved the porn that was definitely targeted for women that had more of a storyline. And so that's what I really seek, like in visual porn. Obviously, I use my imagination a lot, but like creating a narrative and creating this, will they or won't they? And I think in a lot of the stories that already exist on the site, I just read them and I see like potential for this amazing full feature porn film. And so I am looking for actors and actresses and everyone that wants to be involved in this. I've spoken to a few people who create feminist porn, and I think we also consider the porn world to have a lot of money, but I think for people making it ethically, that's not always the case. So I think that that's another thing that has a lot of censorship and just issues in how to get there, but that is a dream of mine. So that's a very like far down the line dream. But right now with the site, we have just over 1,000 members and it fluctuates. The pandemic was an amazing time for Aurore. And that was like right after I launched, which, it's like I think for a lot of online creators, that was a really good time for business because everyone was like, I need some alternative material. I'm going crazy. I'm so horny. So, yeah, just kind of trying to figure out how to capture people's attentions when they're back in the real world where they have their own lives and real events. But also, I think that we're all kind of aware of how much people's worlds now are online and how people aren't having as much sex in the real world or aren't being able to connect with people in the real world. And so, how can we, as creators, maintain spaces that feel inspiring and new? And that's something that I kind of go month by month. Like, last year, I decided to do a solo pleasure series with audio where different people said in words exactly how they touch themselves to get off. So, kind of mixing it up, honestly, for myself, because I want new things to tackle from time to time. Aurora always surprises me in the directions that she goes. I've really loved doing the live events. My first live reading was in October, which is where we first met, and doing Eros Unbound with you has been so fun because it isn't like Aurora is more in the virtual world. So to take her into the real world is very exciting. And I love just people's reactions to learning about the space. And ultimately, really, I think the site is really about the writers because sharing those stories and coming together with other people who are interested in this type of work, that's like so magical.
Magical, which is what we often use to describe that feeling of arousal. It's magical. The closest thing to magic that we could possibly think it to be. Magical, the way it overtakes the body like that, the way that it commands us. I want to give creators an opportunity to learn from you and your opinions here based on the subject of seduction. Now, obviously, we could open up Robert Greene and start learning about what makes great seduction, in his opinion. But you're someone that has this legacy of exploring it, a legacy of investigating it. So when we think about ways to seduce, what makes great seduction, what is your opinion on that?
Well, in writing and, in talking as well, I think it's a lot of lingering in before sex. So with erotic stories on Aurore, people dive into the sex pretty quickly, but the part that gets people excited is the lead in, the unraveling of these two people, the wanting and the desire. And that's what a lot of the page turner fantasy novels do, is the cliffhanger, right? So like leaving people wanting more by teasing what is to come without giving away too much. And I'm sure like all creators are pretty expert in this, but I think if you can do it with words, that is extra special for people. So letting them know that there's more to come and making them beg for it, making them wait. I hate it, but I love it. I think edging is incredibly powerful for that reason, because the more you are restricted from something, the more somebody withholds, the more you want it. If we think about our most toxic relationships, the ones that are toxic, but you have this like amazing connection in sex, it is always because you never know when you are going to see them again, when you are going to get it again, and that wanting, so being a little chaotic with it, messing with their heads a little bit, I think that's the fun part.
Oh, it's so inspiring. One of the big, I guess, trouble areas when you are an on-cam performer and you're hosting these live shows is, what am I supposed to do when I'm on camera and maybe there's some people in the room, but there's not interaction. And a lot of folks get in their head about, I need interaction in order to create seduction. I need someone to bounce off of to make seduction possible. Are there ways or suggestions that you have to create a seductive atmosphere that doesn't require any interaction from the onlooker, the voyeur, or the viewer?
That's a really tricky question, because I was gonna say I would like give them a writing prompt, but like that does require interaction. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that burlesque, the art of striptease, that like slow reveal. I recently got into burlesque when I was out in LA, and I think that that is definitely an amazing way to engage people, again, by not giving everything away all at once. But yeah, like that's a tough one. I'm curious if you have any ideas.
Well, the question actually came to me when you were talking about one of, I guess, projects within Aurore that you had with these people contributing a tell-all of their own pleasure conjuring, basically
Mm,
what they do to get themselves off in
mm,
masturbatory settings. And so when you said that, I thought, wow, that's an interesting offer. If I were to enter a cam room, and I like to hide in the anonymity of just being a name and not being visible, but I want to watch. Suddenly I'm thinking, if someone were to be telling me what they enjoy, how they like it, where they like it, I would
mm.
go crazy on the other end. And it doesn't require them to say, I think you should do this. I would really like it if you did that. And so in the same time, it's also of self-love for a performer to be voicing this for themselves. Like
Mm.
that to me, I thought eureka when you said that. Holy hell.
There you go. That's why we need to meet our minds and come up with this stuff together. Yeah, I think that that would be an amazing like exercise as well, to be narrating as you're touching yourself. And I mean, personally, if I was going to do it, I would tune out the fact that there was anyone watching at all and really do it for myself and create that scene and ambiance for myself in the space. And yeah, and that was really the challenge with the solo pleasure series, is like making it less about jerking off and thinking about your grocery list, as we all do, and more about making it an intentional, ritual-based act where you're really feeling yourself and not so much just doing it to get off, but taking your time to get there. Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
I love it. It's this grand opportunity that exists in the cam space specifically because, you look at mainstream porn, there's a lot of production behind that and a lot of decisions that are out of the hands of the performers. Not all of them, but a lot of them, especially when it comes to how the story is being told. But in camming, you, the broadcaster, are in that driver's seat. And there's like a wonderful sexy protest in being able to say exactly what it is that you like and how you like it. It also becomes something of an educational opportunity for folks to hear someone say that and claim these things for themselves. So like I'm excited for the day that I open up Cam4 and I see a bunch of these broadcasters in solo settings telling me how they want it and how they like it.
I love that. And also going back to talking about the slow reveal and the tease. So, to give you a preview of one of the prompts in the writing group later is to give someone directions for how to touch you without touching any of the usual places. So, no genitals, no lips, none of that good stuff. And so, I'm imagining now giving this solo pleasure play by play without ever going to these usual spots, and how amazing of a tease that would be for people watching, because that is just another level of like, when are we going to get to that stuff, and really dying for it.
Let's be real, we get in our heads as a modern society, as a timeless society, we get in our heads about tits and ass. We get in our heads about the areas that have somehow seemingly been designated for sex, but it's like we are full bodied. We are full
Mm.
bodied with such landscape. Like there's so much to enjoy and to interact with. And that is very burlesque as well. That is very
Mm.
burlesque because I used to teach it and I remember speaking to students about don't get so caught up in the reveal of just breasts and, booty. There's so much to
Yes.
celebrate in that
An
journey of reveal.
ankle.
An
Oh my
ankle,
God.
a
Give me an
shin
ankle.
bone.
Yes. Shine of a shin bone. Oh my God.
Right? That beautiful open highway from your armpit to your hip. Like, are you crazy? That is so delicious.
Mm. It is. It is.
Dirty talk. Dirty talk comes up all the time with, a lot of creators, whether they do custom content that is for a specific buyer or whether they host shows for multiple viewers. Dirty talk seems to be something that people say, I either love it or I hate it and I don't know what to do. So, the same way we asked what makes good seduction, in your opinion, what makes good dirty talk?
Yeah, dirty talk is a hard one too. And I think like as you're writing erotica, that's like where to borrow it from, because in the moment, I think it's hard to think of like what to say or it sounds silly. But if you're reading it from something that you have pre-written, I think that's the way to go, honestly. Because if you're thinking of an experience that was really gorgeous and hot for you and you write that all down, that's something then you return to when you're not so in the zone. Like we have our archives of nudes that we send as we need them. I feel like you can have an archive of dirty talk, or like anytime you're thinking of something, you just write that shit down in your notes app and then you're like, here we go, borrow from it, honestly. Because I think that is really hard to conjure in the moment unless you're in the zone. And like, hopefully you are if you're doing your solo pleasure walkthrough, right?
I love the notes app. I love the idea of have an ongoing note in that app that's just like whether it so accurately describes what you like to experience or whether it accurately describes a fantasy that you have about experiencing with someone else or multiple people, that notes app could become your guidebook to having that vocabulary. Like, oh, I have too many of those notes. And in fact, a lot of them are like a shopping list and then some ideas about what I want. And then, it's kind of muddied everywhere, but that's a really good fucking idea for people.
I
Yes.
always like I write in my notes app just because I always have my phone. I used to be like a notebook person, like a little journal girl, like with my thoughts. And now I'm like, no, we're putting it on the phone. I always have my phone with me. I don't always have a notebook. So it's like, get what you have nearby. I have the best thoughts when I'm like trying to fall asleep at night and I can't fall asleep. It's grab your phone and write it down. And sometimes you look at it the next morning and you're like, that wasn't that good. But I also think with dirty talk, you're overthinking it, because when somebody wants to hear something from you, like they don't really care what it is. Like anything will do. And so just having those go-tos, that's absolutely what I would do.
Gorgeous. Truly. I know how much everyone listening is going to get out of this because I'm sitting here, soaking in my seat. Just that's the effect that you have. It's beautiful. So
Ah.
for people that are eager to learn more about you, the work that you do, and how to get in touch with you, what are all the links that they need to know?
So mainly on Instagram, Read Aurore is where we post almost every day. We do dabble in TikTok, but not that much. And then the site is readaurore.com. The site is paywalled, so it's member supported. You sign up for a membership and you get access to all of the good stuff. And I really recommend that people submit stories because I'm sure a lot of the listeners have stories. So that's a number one. Obviously, join the writing group because that's going to be amazing. Laura's going to be there. We're all going to be there writing our little hearts out, our horny hearts. I'm still, like I said, I'm workshopping the name and I just love everything that's coming up for me. We have the Secret Slut Society, Slutty Writers Club. Now I'm like Horny Hearts Club.
Horny Hearts Club Band. I'm really feeling that one as well. Like, don't even, that's my pop culture references coming in. I'm like, that's really good. And,
Yeah,
for anyone who is considering submitting, I can speak from personal experience that if you are doubting your ability to write, if you are doubting the quality of your work, you have this incredible opportunity when you submit in that Carly, or maybe I think it's Carly, right? I think it's you,
it's
you're the one
me.
that's
Yeah.
you're chewing into it. Carly will get into your work with you. And I submitted a piece and I felt like I was hitting my head against the wall and I wasn't sure where to expand, where to dive deeper into description. And Carly was so patient in cheering me on along that way that I'm so proud of the piece that I believe is actually this week's feature, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
didn't want to
pretty.
out you, but yes, it is a beautiful piece and it was lovely to work with you on. And I mean, it came with so much already. You have a gorgeous way of writing, and obviously, this is a story that meant a lot to you. And I could really feel that. I loved working on that with you, and I'm very excited about it. Being in the
Uh,
world, being out there for everyone.
I think everyone's very excited, mainly that you have made this appearance with us today. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for the life philosophy and just this delicious perspective you have around leading a truly erotic life. I'm so grateful. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, everyone watching, listening, and drooling in your seat, stay tuned for more of our CAM4 expert interviews. If there's an area of interest you have or a certain someone you would like to see joining me in the hot seat, please do let us know in the comments or somewhere in an inbox. We'll be sure to find it. Until next time, I'm Laura Desirée, and we'll see you back here for much, much more.